Now we'll continue with the second panel discussion. It actually will be two parallel sessions on public policies and mechanisms in enabling a favorable environment for startups and entrepreneurship. As you know, they are grouped in according to countries. So in one working group, we'll have Macedonia, Albania, and Kosovo, and in other one, we'll have Bosnia Hercegovina, Serbia, and Montenegro. The participants will be called into the small working groups by us. So patience, 1 or 2 minutes, and then you'll be under the facilitation of respective moderators. Nikita Kushenkova and from Albania will be Shkazen Marko. Thank you very much.
Today with us we have 6 prominent panelists, all with a lot of experience in supporting entrepreneurs, young people, local communities in these 3 countries to develop, to promote startups and enterprises and social enterprises. We have 3 representatives from designated institutions who have over 10 years of experience in the public sector, building policies, building financing instruments and support programs to develop entrepreneurship, innovation, technology. And then on the other hand, we have 3 representatives from support organizations from the 3 countries that also have a huge experience in working with the local communities, with the authorities on local and national level, in promoting, in developing entrepreneurship, civil society, the local communities, and providing valuable support to the development of startups and social enterprises. So I will first introduce them just briefly with their names and institutions, and then we can start with the discussion. We have 2 questions for discussion today, and I'm looking forward to hear more on what is going on in the 3 respective countries. We do have requests from Mr. Martinovic in the chat that we speak in the native languages. So I will ask the Radmila, the interpreter, to please summarize what I have just said, so that, and we will provide the translation, because in the breakout room we don't have the possibility for a separate channel, so we need to actually do the translation here in the panel. Gospodine Martinović, da li nas razumete kad pričamo engleski? Da li vam treba prevod samo da bi vi komentirali ili ne razumete i ono što se govori u...
Pa dobro, ja vas pozdravljam, moja komunikacija engleskog nije baš na tom nekom zavidnom nivou, mada je, kažem, u glavnom meniju postojao prevod, a već ga u posebnim sobama nema, pa ali dobro, ok, nije problem, donekle razumem, ali za neke komentare to onda ne bih mogao, tako da ok, nije problem, sačekat ću ovaj glavni meni i to je to.
Jer se isključilo, ne znam gde je nestala Radmila, nadam se da će nam se pridružiti i da će onda moći i prevoditi. Ali slobodno i napišite na chatu ako nešto ne razumete ili se ubacite, mi ćemo onda preći i direktno prevoditi. So today with us, we have Mr. Nevzat Sefo, expert advisor from the Federal Ministry of Development, Entrepreneurship and Crafts from Bosnia and Herzegovina. Ms. Marieta Bayraktarović-Lanzardi, acting Director General from the Directorate of Digital Economy and Technological Development from the Ministry of Economic Development in Montenegro. Ms. Milena Kostadinović, Operations Manager from the Innovation Fund in Serbia. And then the representatives from the support organizations, Ms. Sejdefa Basic, Collective Impact Director from Mosaic Foundation from Bosnia and Herzegovina, Mr. Igor Milošević, Program Developer and one of the founders of the Association for Democratic Prosperity ZID from Montenegro, and Ms. Dina Rakin, Director from the Coalition for Solidarity Economy Development from Serbia. Hello, everyone, and thank you for sharing, for joining us and sharing your experience in this panel. Radmila, welcome. We have one participant that is not as fluent in English. Maybe some of the others will also appreciate a little bit of translation. So please, if you are able to provide us with the interpretation as we go. I think the introductions were clear of the participants, so I will just go with the first question and will ask you to translate for those that would need the translation. So the first question of the discussion is to see what have been in the first panel. We already concluded that there have been positive developments in our region in terms of support to enterprises, to startups. So what all of you consider as few of the key achievements in your respective countries in terms of policy, the regulatory framework, or any of the support mechanisms for startups and entrepreneurs? Radmila, can you...
Znači, tokom prvog panela smo već razgovarali o pozitivnim razvojima u vašim državama. Ako možete malo da nam kažete šta vi mislite u svakoj vašoj državi, koje su to bili ključne pozitivne dostignuće koje ste dobili, ili na primjer neke nove politike ili novi mekanizmi, ili šta su ti pozitivni uticaji koji su se dogodili u vašim državama?
So maybe we start with Mr. Sefo from Bosnia and Herzegovina. What are the key achievements in your country?
Thanks a lot. Good morning from Mostar, sunny Mostar, from Bosnia and Herzegovina. Actually, I don't have 10 years in public sector. Maybe I should sit with the other group of business support organizations, because I used to work 15 years in development agency for Herzegovina, and I am here in the ministry only a year and a half. So I will speak in front of the governmental support towards startups. In Bosnia and Herzegovina, it's not the best situation, as you know, as you see in all the reports that we can read, such as Doing Business and others. But there are some mechanisms that are developed within my ministry that I'm working in. It's Federal Ministry of Development, Entrepreneurship and Crafts. Actually, they have funding mechanism, actually grants toward startups since 2013 in annual amount about 850,000 km, which is about 430,000 euros per year.
Can we just allow the interpreter to translate this?
Yes.
Radmila? Okay, please continue. When we have Radmila, she will translate.
And this is support usually to approximately 180 startups each year. In the first years of support to business to startups, we funded registration costs and costs for social contributions for the employees. But in the meantime, in the Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina, there is also Federal Employment Bureau, who is also supporting startups with payment of registration costs and social contribution for employees. This year was 12 million of KM, so 6 million euros support for this support to the startups. So we redefined our support for startups, and it is now going to be they will be able to purchase some equipment, etc., in order to grow the business. On the other hand, in Bosnia and Herzegovina, the development of economy and SME policies are on entity levels, you know, and it's a very complex situation. So we have Federation and Republika Srpska, who are in charge of development of policies, and in September this year, we developed a new law on crafts and similar activities, which was in procedure for 5 years because of our parliament's structure and, I don't know, political issues. So this law registration of crafts within 7 days. So it's shortened the procedure for the development of crafts. When we are talking about limited companies, situation with Federation is not the best, since we don't have one-stop shop, and I will talk this regarding the second question. But it is just adopted a law for registration of businesses, companies. So we have, I don't know if you are familiar with, so we have companies who are registered on the court, and the crafts who are registered at the municipal level. So, and in Federation, we have about 22,000 of companies and about 30,000 of crafts.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Yes, and sorry, a part of this, also we developed a mentoring program also for startups and also for the existing companies, together with the JICA, Japanese Development Agency, and we have cooperation with business support organizations such as regional development and local and cantonal development agencies, and they have certified mentors who are supporting the startups and existing companies.
Excellent. Thank you very much for providing us this overview of the framework and support mechanisms. How is the situation in Montenegro, Ms. Baraktarovic-Lanzardi?
Good morning from my side. It's a great pleasure to be here with you today, because as personally involved in the innovation sector for years, we really welcome this kind of platforms and discussions, because not only that we are sharing our common challenges and best practices, but this is also the opportunity to see whether we can have some joint initiatives maybe, and this is great. In regard to your questions, in Montenegro recently we had a lot of novelties, so the government of Montenegro and the Ministry of Economic Development of Montenegro are directed towards creation of the sustainable and efficient national innovation and entrepreneurial ecosystem, and this means that we have interventions at all levels. The first level is certainly legal level. So last year we have introduced in our legal system 2 new laws: law on innovation activity and law on incentives for innovation and research, which is very breakthrough in this area for Montenegro. And in regards for startups, the law on innovation activity is the first law which provides the definition of the startup, especially startups that are dealing with the innovation activity. The novelty within the special law on incentives means incentives, tax reliefs, reduction, and so on, and especially for the employees within the startups. So this is a very good incentive measure. We are very proud to say that these incentives has been launched on 4th October this year. So we digitalized this let's say, initiative from the ministry. So we have a special portal which is called e-innovation, and our potential applicants can apply online and see what are the opportunities. So incentives are directed mostly on the startups because we recognize the importance to push startups forward because of the attracting new talents, attracting new jobs, then also attracting new businesses, but also for the economy as a whole and its competitiveness. In terms of our support instruments, we have several ones. First of all, we have pre-acceleration program. We are looking for the strategic partners within this program, which will develop pre-acceleration program, mentoring program for startups, which is that's a very initial phase of testing the innovation ideas. The novelty of this year is that we decided to collect all innovation instruments in one document, which is called Program for Innovation. It is for the period 2021-25. And our intention is, because we detected the problem when the instruments are not connected between themselves, and a startup can have some sort of financial instrument, but in the further phases of the development of their innovation, there is a lack of funding. So we decided to connect these instruments and as a logical follow-up of the pre-acceleration program, we have recently launched under this program a program line for early stage of the development of startups in the form of grants, and we dedicated 200,000 euros for this, up to 20,000 the value of the single project. This goal was launched last week, so we are very keen to know what will be, first of all, the interest of the startup community, but also
thank you very much, Ms. Marietta. Let me just check with the interpreter. I know that we have been talking quite extensively, so I don't know if it's able to be translated at this point. Radmila, are you with us?
Yes, I'm very sorry. I apologize. I don't know why it kicks me out every 5 minutes, and then I come back in the room, and then it kicks me out. I would just, if it's possible, please, if you can talk in shorter terms, because it's impossible for me to remember everything that you say, because it's a consecutive translation. So I would really appreciate it if you can just speak in shorter terms, please.
Okay. Yes, thank you, Radmila. I thought that you are not with us.
I wasn't, and then I came back, and then they kicked me out. I'm back now again. I just hope they won't kick me out again. I apologize.
So we will try to use briefer sentences now, and in the meantime, slobodane, slobodno pišite ako nešto niste razumeli ili ako bi hteli da nešto pojasnimo. A sad ćemo mi da pokušamo
da... kratko da se osvrnem na ono što sam rekla prije nego što je došla Radmila. Dakle, mi smo potpuno posvećeni kreiranju jednog održivog i efikasnog nacionalnog, inovacionog i preduzetničkog ekosistema. U tom smislu imali smo određene intervencije u zakonskom okviru kroz donošenje zakona o inovacionoj djelatnosti koji po prvi put uvodi samu definiciju start-upova kao takvih. Također imamo i zakon o podsticajima u istraživanju i inovacijama i implementaciju ovog zakona smo lansirali 4. oktobra ove godine kroz jedan digitalizovani sistem putem portala e-inovacija. To je ukratko. Ono što u smislu podrške podržavamo predakceleracijski program, tražeći strateškog partnera koji će raditi sa start-upovima u njihovoj bukvalno ranoj i najranijoj fazi testiranja njihove inovativne ideje. Kao logički nastavak za to, lansirali smo i programsku liniju podrške ranoj fazi.
Marietta, we need to move to the next participant because we have this room until 12, so we need to somehow be very brief and try to get the overall picture. So maybe we move to Serbia. Ms. Kostadinovic, you come from the Innovation Fund, so I assume innovation is also quite a bit of focus of the policies in Serbia.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me, and happy to share our experience so far in front of the Innovation Fund and Serbia. But probably my focus be on the Innovation Fund. As Marietta said, also as Montenegro, for Serbia as well, the innovation development and support innovative entrepreneurship here in Serbia is kind of a focus and something on which we are working on for the last 10 years. Actually, the Innovation Fund has been established 10 years ago, where we, as first, let's say, public institution, piloted granting schemes that with the aim to support development of innovative and startup ecosystem here in Serbia. From that time till now, we developed 7 or 8 various granting schemes aiming to one extent to support startup development ecosystem in Serbia, depending on the maturation of the companies and startups. And from the other side, our second goal is to support collaboration, joint collaboration between business sector and academia. And taking this into account, we developed certain different granting schemes for various programs, depending on the, let's say, objectives of the program and the maturity of the projects applying to us. I will not go into deep explanation of our granting schemes. If there is a time, we could discuss on that. So what is important as for institution when supporting private sector development in general is to be, for me, to have good defined programs, efficient system for applying and evaluation of applicants who need the support, and later on to have a proper monitoring system, and at the end to be, let's say, to have a possibility to report on the impacts made of these supporting mechanisms. So far, I think the Innovation Fund is, I think, one of the first institutions in Serbia which started to work applying this model. What is, I think, at least in Serbia, unique for us, that from our beginning, we are kind of evaluating the business we do, meaning that we evaluate independently. We engage experts to evaluate our granting schemes and support programs meant for the ecosystem. And based on the results of this evaluation, we are kind of adapting these supporting programs in general. As for the policies and strategies, I will just summarize on country level. Serbia has adopted the smart specialization strategy for the period 2020-27, where it defines priority areas to which it should further invest. I think Montenegro also have smart specialization strategy adopted. Last year, strategy for artificial development has also been adopted, which is also kind of relating to this startup ecosystem development. Strategy for industrial policies for the period 2021-2030 also relates to development of competitiveness, digitalization, startups. Serbia also has kind of applied regulation which relates to tax incentives for R&D, for startups dealing with R&Ds, and we're also applying this model similar to Macedonia. Recently, the law on digital assets has been also adopted. 2 years ago, the law on alternative investment funds has been also adopted. I think Serbia in the future period will also go in. I think generally the state should not only give grants, but depending on the development of the ecosystem, it should also think about the investments. So our I think general role is to incentivize private investments here in Serbia to kind of boost the first initial money in the system, but later on to let the system to develop based on private sector investments. I think at latest, I will just mention, I think it's important for all countries, not only Serbia, to take care on state aid rules as well when giving mechanisms to future awardees, grantees. That is really complex topic. Maybe we could organize sometime the topic especially focused on the state aid rules. Yes, and for me, for the first question, I think it's enough.
Thank you very much for providing us this framework and for pointing out the important aspects of measuring the impact of the policies and measures, and also the latest as we approach the EU, the state aid regulation. So let's hear from the support organizations. What do you consider are the key achievements, very briefly, in your countries that you are making or other stakeholders are making? Let's go first to Bosnia. Ms. Sejdefa, can you hear us? Yeah. Okay, somehow the monitor is frozen. So maybe Igor, you can jump in and tell us what are the achievements in Montenegro, and then we can move to Bosnia. Oh, Sejdefa.
Here now, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it just said my internet is unstable. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect. So when it comes to policy, Nevzat was already saying the overview when it comes to Bosnia. We are definitely lacking certain laws, especially in Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina, but also overall in the country. So in the meantime, Mosaic Foundation decided not to wait for new regulations or laws. We are doing what we can do the best, offering young people in Bosnia, focusing on youth in Bosnia, and trying to have rich opportunities for young people to have options. Entrepreneurs, because we truly believe that right support for young people, they can achieve good and responsible business results. So what we did, we started the Startup Studio program.
Okay. Problems with the internet? Okay.
For the business and okay. So we truly believe in something that we call collective impact. This is why we are trying to bring different partners on board, civil society sectors, government agencies, ministries, and private companies in our efforts to support young people, bringing them opportunities. There is one platform, we call it Lonets, with more than 65,000 members, where we are trying to bring opportunities from Mosaic side, but also our partners post whatever is there for young entrepreneurs to develop their businesses. That includes also, as Nevzat mentioned, the Agency for Unemployment, because they have some of the programs aimed at developing startups. There are other agencies like Mosaic is, or Foundation Organization, but there are also private sector who's very interested in a good economy. So we are trying to build an ecosystem for future entrepreneurs. So when it comes to the law, we are not the advocacy organization, but when it comes to, for example, the law in Republika Srpska, the law for source. And amendments from mosaics from the field that was very relevant and very present in the field. And all these 10 amendments were accepted. So they end up as a part of the law. So not.
Okay. Thank you very much, Signifa. I think we can now move to Montenegro and hear from Igor what is happening. I'm sorry, the internet is breaking. The internet is breaking, so it's very difficult to follow. Maybe you can add some of the key points in the chat that we were not able to hear. These last points related to your role in the laws. So maybe you can put your points in the chat so that we don't lose your contribution as well. Igor, would you like to share with us how is in Montenegro, what's going on there?
Yeah, for most of the novelty present our representative Marietta from the ministry, and this is very good advanced step comparing to some previous period. Yes, so all this mechanism and legislation will get, let's say, push the innovation and the development of startup. I hope so in some another dimension. What is the challenges is that is at the beginning. You know, we have the strategy of smart specialization. We have that legislation. Those legislation will support and encourage some company, larger company that make profit to invest in the startups. When we are talking about startups, we are talking some startups that have connection with some digital solution, no classical company and some small enterprises. This is good step. There is some problem because they also, through this legislation and this program, support ecosystem. But problem is for us, for example, because we belong to the ecosystem, but as the organization is not possible to be registered in the register of the innovation, legal or support as a part of the ecosystem. So we need to clarify way how to do that with the ministry. And also there is another possibility through our colleague from ministry is not mentioned, and that is in another department, like there is a support scheme for development of startups, and there is like small grants, few thousand, 5,000 euros, and also on the local level, which is good starting point for some small enterprises. What is the problem? There is no recognition of social economy and a company that acting as a social economy. For example, our company, BitHub, was registered as a limited company, and through the statutory and statute, we need to present itself as a social company, which is okay, internal acts, but they are not giving us any advantages in on the market, since there is many other aspects that colleague from the European Union mentioned this morning. In that sense, I think we need to work a lot to, let's say, public procurement, recognize social economy, to do something to profilize, let's say, company to do with like a larger company to work with a smaller company, and the social economy oriented company. So there is a lot of let's say challenges that my colleague from organization from Western Balkan very it's very much informed. But let's say we need to open much more opportunity to be oriented on each other and to work a little bit faster than in the previous period, because if we work like in the last decade, you know, ecosystem, we will not be supportive too much for someone who have intention to work even as a you know, startups or as a social economy. From our side, we give the best. I don't know to do what to do more. You know, even we took a credit, you know, to buy the space to regulate, to have infrastructure to realize activity that we want to realize. This is I don't know, we have the human resources to do that. Only missing the, you know, some organized support from the governmental side to recognize some specificity on the market. And one thing it's very important is to promote and to support, not only to support good example. We don't have still that opportunity in Montenegro. We are still in the level of the grants on the few thousand, 10,000 euro. And for that money, it's very difficult to have serious impact. But when we developed the good example with a good amount of money and produce good impact on the society, probably we will have, I don't know, based on that, to discuss, okay, if you support, they will look like that. Okay. Otherwise, if we fulfill just form, you know, they will not make any progress in the region.
Igor, I'm sorry, I will have to interrupt you to provide Dina with a space to say something, because I'm looking at the timing. We will soon have to move to the third panel. And thank you for bringing already kind of addressing the second question related to the challenges, which I think we all share in the Western Balkan in terms of recognition for the social enterprises and let's say maybe not preferential treatment, but some support and incentives for them. Dina,
summarize everything. Thank you.
In Serbia?
Yeah, I will continue on this line, which Igor already said. So yes, I would speak more about social enterprises actually, because that's the area that we are interested in. And the last research that we have undertaken, why it's important actually to have some kind of legal recognition. We are aware that the law on this sector is not substantial, but it brings huge recognition of the sector. And one of the most important things that turned out through our research, we were analyzing programs for startups, for enterprises, for agriculture, for innovation. They do not recognize social enterprises and such. And we believe that if the law that mainstreams in a way social entrepreneurship, all other programs might recognize actually social enterprises. And nowadays we are in almost like finish line with draft of the law on social enterprises that might recognize them wider than just service provision, social service provision and work integration. They might recognize all legal forms, but giving the status to the entities that operate as social enterprises, which is something that we were really hoping for years. Now, and if we get this kind of law, there is huge opportunity to work with the institutions. So we believe that once the law as such, that doesn't bring any kind of benefits, actually, it doesn't bring any kind of tax benefits and so on, but we still believe that programs might support in the respective idea of grants, but we also recognize that acceleration is something that is quite needed. We have our founding member like Smart Collective that started the investment fund in Serbia. So we as an intermediary organization are working on the field, providing some kind of private support to it. But we believe that this kind of public support through the law as such might bring new interventions within institutional system, and that might accelerate development of social economy sector. So this is our endeavor as coalition to work with the institutions to bring this kind of raised awareness and capacities of the institutions to support this kind of impact and enterprises and or other activities that come from social economy. So I think I've circled around first and the second question, and thank you for
But I
time.
think that you also made a very good link, if I might summarize, because we saw also in the countries, and especially in Montenegro and Serbia, how and I would say North Macedonia as well, how the policies related to innovation and support to startups in the area of technology development and innovation stirred up also a lot of activity there. So so we see this clear link because how policies can also drive the interest and the development, and this is something that we should follow with the social enterprises as well. And talking at least about the social enterprises, probably that is something that will come in the next phase, and the institutions can follow up on this.
Hopefully, yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
We have in the chat also, thank you very much also for writing in the chat, because unfortunately we don't have enough time to address fully the second question on what are the gaps and the future plans. I see Ariola showing up in the screen, so thank you very much all of you for the patience with little bit of technical challenges that we had, but also for valuable contribution and for sharing the links also in the chat. I'm sure that organizers will also collect these links and maybe share them on the DUA partners platform or over email, so that we can access them and learn more about what you're doing. Yes, and we have on the questions and answers, you can write them also on the third panel as we move to the third panel. And I'm sure that the panelists can write in the chat, or the organizers will follow up on them. So I will invite you to join the third panel, where the different actors from the startup ecosystem will share their perspectives and experience in what kind of support the startups and the small enterprises need. What is needed in terms of an ecosystem. So we will have a diverse experience from the region and from Europe. So please join me to the third panel, and thank you again for participating in this second panel and breakout room. Thank you.